Welcome to Major Stories. I'm Michelle Thomas. The government of Jamaica and the United States are working on addressing several matters related to diplomacy, the economy and regional security. At a press conference earlier at the office of the Prime Minister Andrew Holness and the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo affirmed their commitment to partnership while stating that there are no intentions to divide CARICOM. Khadija Thomas has more.
Amidst escalating tensions in Iran, where a legislator has placed a $3 million bounty out for the assassination of President Donald Trump and the ongoing political and economic crisis in Venezuela, Jamaica's present government appears to be tightening its ties with the U.S. The U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo arrived in Jamaica on Tuesday evening amidst controversial statements about the U.S. moving to divide CARICOM. However, the Secretary of State and Prime Minister Andrew Holness dismissed the rumors.
We're friends, and so we do that. We're friends with the United States. So we are happy to host here, not to the exclusion of anyone. And if anyone wanted to attend, they just had to signal. From my perspective, we would have done everything to ensure that they are present.
There's no intent from the United States to divide CARICOM. Not yesterday, not today, not tomorrow. We want all the countries of this region to prosper and be successful. We know that countries in this region will agree with the United States on certain positions from time to time and disagree with us from time to time.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo also addressed matters related to Venezuela, noting that securing regional ports and combating transnational crime were top priorities.
Prime Minister Holness actually raised first security in the region. It was the first thing we talked about today. We discussed how we can work together to stop drug flows and transnational crime. The United States has supported Caribbean nations with more than $600 million in much-needed funding for this fight over this past decade. Our expectation is those funds will augment homegrown efforts to protect all Caribbean peoples.
He says the U.S. has invested $1 billion in energy in Jamaica and is working on ensuring that agreements made are in line with best practices.
And we want to ensure that all new investments, especially in the technology sector, come from trusted sources who won't compromise Jamaican security and privacy. We want the Jamaican people to receive quality, high-level, trusted work on fair terms.
Khadija Thomas, CVM Live.
There are new challenges with security that now require countries to come closer together. This was the statement made by the U.S. Secretary of State at the Caribbean Relations Talk of the Town at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel early today while addressing matters relating to China. Once again, here's Khadija Thomas.
I think for too long, the United States focused on the Caribbean only when natural disasters hit. Too many U.S. officials came here to talk about aid and aid alone.
That's the belief of U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who says the U.S. and the Caribbean can do more together, citing that they are natural allies. He, however, notes that present challenges, which involve security, now require a multilateral approach.
The bad guys are more sophisticated and more ruthless, and our nations have an obligation, therefore, for our very people to work in the interest of our shared security much more closely.
Back in November of last year, the top United States military official in the region, Admiral Craig Fowler, listed China among countries which do not hold the values shared by Jamaica and America. At the time, he noted that China's economic interest in Jamaica could lead to a long-term loss of sovereignty, secrecy, and a lack of transparency in operations. The result of this was a diplomatic row with China. Now, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo appears to have confirmed this belief with his statement at the Caribbean Relations Talk of the Town discussions on Wednesday.
It's tempting to accept easy money from places like China. But what good is it if it feeds corruption and undermines your rule of law? What good are those investments if, in fact, they ruin your environment and don't create jobs for your people? There's a better alternative. We all know it, and we can all achieve it together. Western firms, American firms, operate according to values proven to produce good deals and quality work, the work that we do in democracies. Things like transparent contracts, the respect for the rule of law, honest, straightforward accounting practices. That's why I'm proud to be America's Secretary of State and advocate for American companies to come and want to participate and invest in places like Jamaica and the region.
The discussion was part of the activities lined up for the two-day working visit of the U.S. Secretary of State. Khadija Thomas, CVM Live.
The Ministry of National Security is reporting that it has obtained just over half of the vehicles procured under a settlement agreement arising from the controversial used car contract. And the JCF says it needs approximately 1,000 more vehicles to adequately cover the entire island. The matter of the mobility of the constabulary force was raised at today's sitting of Parliament's Public Administration and Appropriations Committee. More in this report.
The 2017 contract for the procurement of used cars for the JCF between the Ministry of National Security and O'Brien's International Car Sales and Rental has been the subject of intense scrutiny and discussions at previous sittings of the Parliament's PAAC. The contract was abandoned and a settlement reached between the parties after the car dealer delivered fewer than 100 of the 200 vehicles as per contract. On Wednesday, the Ministry's Head of Corporate Services came with an update.
I am pleased to advise you and this Honourable Committee that we have received a total of 54 vehicles, more than 50% of those vehicles to date. And we are in the process of getting the remaining vehicles.
The announcement was not greeted with equal delight from the opposition spokesman on national security, Fitz Jackson.
In 2017 you entered that contract. This is 2020. 3 years later. And you are pleased that you have 50% of what you sought to purchase.
We are not pleased that we have only 50%, but we are making steady progress, rather, in addressing the issue and getting the remaining vehicles. And we are confident that we will succeed.
Mr. Simpson sought to assure committee members that the ministry was taking the matter of the mobility of the police force seriously. He said 175 vehicles were procured in this financial year, and the ministry is seeking an increased allocation from the finance ministry in the upcoming budget.
$1.3 billion was allocated for vehicles for this year. We have sought $2.4 billion for the next financial year, because we're seeking to procure maybe at least another 300 units. All right? So that is the thinking. We recognize all of those concerns that you have put forward, and we're taking them into consideration.
The committee also heard that over 1,000 units were needed to adequately police the island, and of the current fleet of close to 3,000 vehicles, 75% is functional. Mr. Simpson also told the committee that the ministry is taking active steps to ensure the efficient management of the existing fleet of vehicles.
The arrival of tourists in Port Royal on Monday is building the hopes of residents as they make efforts to capitalize on the arrival of more ships. A number of onlookers also gathered and expressed satisfaction as the port received its first cruise ship in half a century. Christine Forbes reports.
The government of Jamaica is the recipient of a loan from the World Bank valuing $43.9 million for the implementation of the integrated.
The public appears to be on board with the redevelopment of Port Royal, especially with the arrival of the Marella Discovery 2 on Monday. The historic city has been transformed to bring tourists directly to its port. One resident of Port Royal says he's looking forward to more ships docking in the upcoming months.
I like when I see I go another place, yes, but deep down I don't get no support. But at the first, I wish when the bigger things start, I appreciate if I say a cruise ship coming to Port Royal where we can say, yes, tourists start, or visit our area, might be down on the long run, might be what bigger thing will happen for we.
Onlookers made it clear that they too will be enjoying the redevelopment of the historic city.
I booked in at the airport, and I thought I would come and have a look to see what the ship is like. And I'm pleased to see, that people have come out to support this lovely venture, and I hope it continues.
The move also received a nod from students of the nearby Caribbean Maritime University, who were quite thrilled at the experience and is applauding the government for the latest happenings in Port Royal.
You know, it's all over the media. Everyone is loving it. The students are going over by the cruise ship. It's really awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, and it's also an opportunity for students or anybody who hasn't really seen what a cruise ship look like in person. So for me, up close, I haven't seen a cruise ship before, like up close. So it was really good to actually see it up close in person.
The Marilla Discovery 2 is the first cruise ship in 500 years to dock in Port Royal and is set to return 3 more times before April. Christine Forbes, CVM Live.
The Jamaica Constabulary Force and the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, have signed a Memorandum of Understanding for the Jamaica Crime Observatory Enhancement Project. This will see the establishment of a crime and violence information system for 18 communities across the island, as well as the corresponding georeference maps of the incidents. Robbie and Williams has the details.
The government of Jamaica is the recipient of a loan from the World Bank valuing $43.9 million for the implementation of the Integrated Community Development Project. The sub-project of this is the Jamaica Crime Observatory Enhancement System. Social Development Manager at the Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, Mona Sue Ho, provides an overview.
This project today is supporting over $16.6 million going towards institutional strengthening of the JCF crime database located within the Statistical and Information Management Unit through the provision of hardware and software, as well as human resources to assist with the validation and cleaning of crime reports.
This will see the improvement in the distribution of data collected and capacity building activities for staff to analyze and disseminate information. The program will also be able to support and keep up-to-date, reliable data to promote transparency, security and safety in the national interest. Acting Deputy Commissioner of Police Richard Stewart says it is an exciting time for development within the Jamaica Constabulary Force.
This tool is being leveraged in strategic and operational decisions. For example, we are better able to identify crime and crash hotspots and improve policing decisions within them.
He adds that the investments within the force should be priority to achieve the 2030 vision of making Jamaica a place of choice to live, work, raise families and do business. The communities set to benefit are within the parishes of Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Anne, Clarendon, St. Catherine, St. James and Westmoreland. The project will end in May 2020. Robian Williams.